Afade and welcome back to GQ. Again, I want to thank Abandoned Ship for allowing me to film in here. I want to thank my producer, and I want to thank you for tuning in. I've been thinking a lot about what I call the Mamåolåo Factor. I've been thinking about it for years, actually, and identifying it in different aspects of our culture and how the Mamåolåo Factor tends to hold us back, tends to stifle our progress, and in some areas, it kills us. I'll just brush briefly on maybe one or two of the topics. I don't want this segment to be too long, maybe just 5 minutes. In the previous segment, I talked about the Mamåolåo Factor when it comes to government officials walking on eggshells, essentially, when trying to discuss plans, intentions, with respect to making improvements to the island of Guam. And when you are afraid of upsetting anyone or everyone, and you try not to make yourself look bad, the best way to do that is to not do or say anything. And so whenever you try to effectuate a plan, whenever you have a vision and you want to act it out, you want to set it in motion, you already have to accept that not everybody's going to like it. So long as you believe that it's going to do good, never mind about how it feels, never mind about how it sounds, is it going to do good? Then have the confidence to talk about your plan, lay it out, and if people choose not to listen to the whole plan and not to see any of the good that it's going to do, ultimately you cannot change their mind or force them to see the good that you're trying to do. And so you have to continue to believe in yourself and move forward. Now I'd like to switch to a topic that's just kind of out there. It's something that I've been involved with for the last 9 years. Actually a little bit before that, but it's fitness. I've been involved in CrossFit for the last 9 years. I started my fitness journey almost, what was it, back in late 2006, when I got into boxing, which led into MMA, and MMA ultimately led me into CrossFit. And that is probably, when I talk about fitness, it's probably the most important investment that you could ever make in your life. And that's, to your overall health, which leads to the improvement overall of your quality of life. And one of the most common arguments there are two very common arguments when I ask people if they want to start working out, and whatever it is, whatever you choose to do to be active and to have a consistent physical regimen is better than being stagnant. So comment number one is, I don't have the time. And that's understandable. We all have to work. We all have to provide for our families. We got to pay our bills. And that's the thing. That's why I call working out, that's why I call fitness a personal investment, because nobody has the time for it. We have to make the time to do it. And I haven't been the best at doing that. Gosh, I think maybe the last year, especially during the campaign when I was running back in 2018. So yeah, a lot of people say, I don't have the time. And to those people, I say, well, it's understandable. And that's why if you want to make the most important investment that you ever will in your lifetime, you've got to make the time. I'm not judging anybody, by the way. So if you're watching this and you're getting offended, I addressed in the intro segment that nothing I say here is a personal affront on anybody out there. Offense is only taken, it's never given. So yes, if you don't have the time, my counter to that is you have to make the time, because working out is an investment. There is no simple or easy or quick workout. It's in the name, it's a workout, right? So that's what I like about it. It's very matter of fact. The second argument that I hear to working out is because of the fact that it's so difficult to make time, and it is a workout. So it's not pleasant, and it's an acquired habit, if you will, is, oh, you only live once, right? Fair enough. You only live once. It's your life. You do with it what you want. So now, and I always wondered, well, what can I say to these individuals to try and encourage them? Because it's their right to live their life. And again, I'm not going to judge anybody. I'm not going to force anybody. But if I could encourage someone to improve their own quality of life, then I will, in the most positive and productive way possible. So when somebody says to me, if I ask them, hey, would you like to get involved? Come over to Unified. Let's do CrossFit. And they say, well, I just want to do this and I want to hang out. And you only live once. And I say, okay, yeah, exactly. You only live once. And I'm trying to extend that lifetime as much as possible. I have 2 daughters. One plays basketball. One just loves being active, period. And so I want to be able to play with them as long as possible. And one day when I become a grandfather, hopefully, I want to be able to play and run around with my grandkids. I don't want to be stuck in a wheelchair. I don't want to be held back by diabetes. And I'll talk about it in just a second. I don't want to have spent the majority of my life being stagnant, that when my grandkids want to play with me, I can barely move because my body's rusty, if you will, tinaki, right? My body's not used to being active. And I brought up diabetes because I was very fascinated with diabetes. I call it the disappearing disease. Because when you get diabetes, one of the most common things that happens is people tend to lose limbs, and it usually starts with the foot. It affects your immune system, your ability to recover from a wound. And when somebody steps on something, their foot gets infected and they have to cut the foot off. And that starts a chain reaction, and they have to start the foot just above, just below the knee, and the whole leg goes. And it's tragic. You're literally watching somebody disappear. Now, the tricky thing with diabetes is people don't normally die as a direct result of diabetes. And so what I did was I started researching the top 10 causes of death in Guam. And if you go online and you go, I believe it's the Guam Bureau of Statistics, they have their yearbook. They call it the statistical yearbook. And you look at the top 10 causes of death in Guam, diabetes is the #1 contributing factor to all 10 items on that list. They used to put diabetes on the list, and I guess they just got tired of putting it up there. And I don't mean to laugh about it. It's not a funny matter. Diabetes makes our people disappear, and that is a direct consequence of our cultural eating habits. And that's why I say the Mamåolåo Factor can ultimately kill us, because people are too afraid to go to their loved ones and say, maybe you shouldn't eat so much. And I used to joke about it myself. You go to the fiesta and I stack my plate up high and I say, no, it's okay, because I'm countering it with a Diet Pepsi, And we laugh about it. But then down the line, our loved ones get sick and they go to the hospital. And I know a bunch of nurses, and I remember hearing the stories of this one particular incident, an individual who went to I forget the name of the facility up there in Barragata Heights, but that's where people go when, I guess, they're terminal. This individual came in, he had his foot amputated due to diabetes. And his family would visit him, and every time they visited him, they would bring him fiesta food, they would bring him ice cream, and essentially they would bring him food that was bad for his condition. And the nurses that I knew would try to talk to the family and say, hey, try to bring something a little bit healthier or whatever. And instead of the family trying to work something out with the nurses, the family would get upset and they would accuse the nurses, and they would say, are you saying it's my fault? And that's very unfortunate, because what the nurses were trying to do is help, and it's not a comfortable situation. And I don't think the members of the family are bad people. I think that somewhere in their conscience, in their heart, there was guilt. They want to bring their loved one who's bedridden something that they like, something that they enjoy. But it is counterintuitive, it's counterproductive to that person's health. And if we don't address these things down the line, our people will ultimately disappear. And I don't expect the adults out there, individuals of my generation and above, to make the change overnight. But what I do ask is that we start to teach our kids better habits so that our future looks a little bit brighter, so that people can thrive. So when I see that example that I just made about, an individual wearing a shirt depicting our ancestors in all of their glory, and yet their physical body is obese. Again, I don't judge them. I see that as a sign that it's something deep down in the recesses of our mind, something that's troubling in our hearts, where we want to be something better than what we are. And that's okay and that's fine. However, if we want to accomplish that, if we want to obtain that goal, anything worth something is going to take sacrifice, it's going to take hard work. I'm not perfect, and I'm still working on myself, so I don't judge anyone. However, I ask us all to take a hard look, sit back, and really just think long and hard about what kind of future we want for our children and our grandchildren. Our grandparents after the war, they had to pick up the pieces. They had to rebuild our island. And so now today, everything that we see around us, we're lucky and we're spoiled. And we should be grateful for everything that they did and honor that tradition of making the sacrifices needed to improve our children and our grandchildren's future. I'm Julius Caesar Santos. Stay the course. This is GQ.